longest waterfall right there. That's huge. What's going on, guys? This is Mike, aka Moto, and today I'm super excited to show you this video of my dog Koba and I hiking down in southern Utah during the fall. If you look up at the left right there, you can see a small arch, which I thought was pretty cool. But just to give you a couple of background notes, I forgot my dog's leash, so I'm using a strap that I use for my motorcycle on her. I let her off the leash. I know that's kind of a taboo thing to do, but we were out there really early. We only saw a couple people on the trail. My dog is highly trained at hiking. She stays on the trail. She only goes about 50 yards ahead of me. She scouts, she waits up until I get up to her, and then when I command her that she can keep going, she'll keep moving and pressing forward. Again, she stays on the trail. She doesn't chase wildlife, and if we see people, I call her back to me and I put her leash on her. So that's just a little bit of a background of my dog. She's like the best hiking dog in the world. But yeah, we went down to a place in southern Utah that's called the Lower Calf Creek Falls, and it's located in Escalante, Utah. Now, if you've never heard of Escalante, Utah, I highly recommend you looking it up. I don't want to say it's Utah's best kept secret, because it's definitely not a secret, but not a lot of people know about it. Most people from out of state, when they come to Utah to visit, they go to the Mighty Five or the 5 national parks that we have. And this is right up there with all the parks. It has so many things to do. There's slot canyons, so many different hikes, and it's just a cool place. So look it up. So again, here I am with my dog, and we're hiking on this trail. It's a 6.7 mile in and out hike. It's not very hard to do. There aren't really many elevation gains. There's a couple of places where you have to go up on a slight incline, but other than that, this is a really simple hike. So you could bring your kids on it. I saw a bunch of people when we were heading out of the canyon. There's a couple groups that were coming up that was full of elderly people. As long as you pace yourself and bring water, you're gonna be fine. So like I said, it's a pretty easy hike. If you do go to Escalante, I would recommend going during the fall. It gets crazy hot. In the summer or even in the spring would be a good time, but in the fall you get to see the leaves, as you're gonna see in this video. So we're by the Escalante River, and this creek right here that runs down through this canyon, it feeds into the Escalante River. It's called the Lower Calf Creek, and the reason why they call it the Lower Calf Creek is back in the day when there was farmers, they would put their cattle up in this canyon because it's what's called a box canyon. If you don't know what a box canyon is, basically an easy explanation of it is there's only one way into it, and it's surrounded on the right, on the left, and on the back by canyon walls. So right here, I just put my dog back on her leash because we heard some people. Again, like I said, if we hear people or see people on trails like this, even if it's a no leash trail, I'll always put her on a leash just to be respectful. They had a nice behaving dog, and we passed by these people. They were the only ones that we saw while we were up at the falls. They made it to the falls right when we were leaving. So going back to what a box canyon is, again, it's surrounded on all sides but one, and that's why it's an ideal spot for farmers or cowboys to use it to corral their cattle. When you're hiking up to the Lower Calf Creek Falls, keep an eye out up on the cliffs for the desert bighorn sheep. They're a different species of the bighorn, and they're more rare than the Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. I've seen them in Arizona before, but I've never seen them in Utah. Unfortunately, we didn't see any while we were on this hike. If you're wondering what type of dog I have, she's called a Berger Picard, or a Berger Picard. She's a French herd dog. There's not many of them. I think there's only like 3,000 of them in the world, and 300 or 400 here in North America. She's 100% an awesome dog and 100% a lot of work, but I love her. She's a good hiking companion, and she gets so excited when we go out on the trails. Call me Mr. Tinfoil Hat Man, but if you look up at the top left in the air, right above the cliff, you can see a white orb that's just floating there. Southern Utah is notorious for UFO sightings. I've seen them. They tend to follow me. I feel like I've seen them in the San Rafael Swell and my last trip in Escalante, and who knows what it is. Usually when I see them, though, that they're moving. That one was just stand still. According to what I've read online about the falls, it wasn't even discovered, quote unquote, until 1930. And in 1930 they had built a road that I guess supposedly you could go up the ravine that you can see to the right in second gear. They claimed that the road was passable or doable, but very dangerous. And yeah, they discovered it in 1930, which is kind of remarkable if you think about it, because that's less than 100 years from now. So it's pretty recent. The falls is 136 feet. And if you go above the falls, there's another hike that you can do that's called the Upper Calf Creek Falls, and that's a 90-foot waterfall. Shortly after the falls were discovered back in 1930, the locals, they called it a scenic paradise, and they put in an application for it to become a national park. And of course, as we know today, it's never been a national park, nor do I think it ever will be a national park. But in 1965, they declared it a national recreation area, which basically meant that they had it protected to a certain degree. And in 1975, due to the popularity of the falls, they started charging a $2 fee. Today, if you go to the falls, I believe it's a $5 fee or a permit that you got to get when you go there. It's well worth it. Again, go early and go at times when there's not going to be a lot of people, because it is one heck of a popular trail to hike. For the next few shots, if you look up in the sky, you can see our UFO friend right up there, just sitting up there. And if I'm being completely honest with you, it's probably just the moon, but still it looks kind of cool up in the air. So we're just hiking. One of my favorite things about this hike was all the vegetation that you get to walk through. There's a vast range of it, and you're going to see, especially in like the next minute or so of the video, just all the vegetation and all the colors. This is about as steep of a climb that you just saw that you have to do on the hike, and again, this is about as steep of a decline that you got to do. Really easy hike. There's another trail that I would recommend doing that's really close to this one. It's called the Escalante River Trail. I took my dog to that one about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we enjoyed it. It was really fun. There's a lot of river crossings. The current was never strong enough that I had to worry for my dog to cross it, but she's bigger than what you think too. She's about 70 pounds. Anyways, if you go on the Escalante River Trail, you eventually make it to the Escalante Natural Bridge, which is really cool. You can see some petroglyphs along the way. And also there's this other really cool skinny canyon you can hike up that's called Sand Creek that I would also recommend going in. So right here, my dog and I were just making our way towards the falls. We're going through these trees. She's waiting for me, and this is why I call her the Koba. You'll see here in just a second. She can climb pretty much anything. It's probably steeper than what you think. And yeah, she's an incredible hiking dog. It's crazy watching this to know that just the day before, I went to a slot canyon that was called Bighorn Slot Canyon, and that's a really cool hike too. I would recommend doing that if you like slot canyons. And there's hardly any vegetation, and so just to be able to drive 20 miles or so and to be able to see such different sceneries is incredible to me, and that's one of the reasons why Escalante has become one of my favorite places to travel to in Utah. Now, it was really fun to go in the morning. The lighting was super harsh, so some of the shots I thought were really good, and some of them, like, of course you got like the sun pointing at your lens, or you got some harsh shadows or whatnot, what have you. Now in a second, I'm going to be pointing up to the top of the canyon wall to my right, and what I'm pointing at is what's called Highway 12. And Highway 12 at this point, you're basically drive on top of a spine. If you look to your right, it's basically straight down, and if you look to your left, same thing. I think it's a super cool road, especially at this point. In between the drive from Escalante to Capitol Reef, there's a small town called Boulder. In fact, it's not very far from where I'm at right now. I would say it's maybe 20 miles away, if that. And Boulder is basically the beginning of where the scenery is going to completely change. So where I'm at right now, and all around Capitol Reef, it's the desert. And when you get to Boulder, you start a descent up into the Alpine Mountains where there's pine trees. It's really green, just completely different looking. So at this point, Koba and we've made it to what I think is my favorite part of the hike. It's the last quarter of it. You're in between these two canyon walls that are closer, they're more snug, and you get to walk next to the Calf Creek, which I think is really cool. I got some shots of that you'll be able to see in a minute. Some rock stairs you get to go up. And yeah, I had no idea that the falls were coming up. Like, we got to them pretty quick. The next day after Koba and I did this hike, I took her down south of Escalante off of Hole in the Rock Road. I took her on another hike that's called the Golden Cathedral, which is an amazing hike, and it's completely different than this by every sense of the mean, and it's a hard hike. You go down this place that's called Egypt Canyon. I think the first canyon you go down is called Fence Canyon, and then you go down into Egypt Canyon. Got some river crossings to go through, and we had one heck of an adventure. I dropped my gimbal in the river. I lost my GoPro, or at least I thought I lost it, and I didn't film a lot of it. I filmed most of it from my phone. But once you get to the Golden Cathedral, man, it is awesome. The very last part of that hike, you go up another canyon that's called Neon Canyon. And I know why they call it Neon Canyon. I hiked it in the fall. The leaves literally were neon green, and it was such a cool experience. And if you look at pictures of the Golden Cathedral online, they do not do it justice whatsoever. It's a lot bigger, and Koba and I, being the lucky people that we are, we were the only ones there. We got there kind of late, so we thought we were gonna have to hike back in like the dark, but we didn't. On the hike back, you do have to climb quite a bit. I think I tracked it, it was 1,500 feet that we climbed, and that was just over almost 11-mile round trip. And the last part of the climb is just pretty much straight up, man. It kicked my butt, and I hurt my hip doing it, but it was well worth it. And I want to go back there again 100%. I want to go explore Egypt Canyon because it's just a cool place. If you've never heard of that place, check that out too. So the last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm just going to let you watch the video so you can see what it's like walking up to the falls without me talking over it. My gimbal, I think the battery got low, and with the clunky mic adapter that I put on the GoPro, it just started slanting a little bit. So when I'm at the waterfall, it's not on center, and it kind of bothers me, but it is what it is. It's still cool. So like I said, guys, I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm just going to let you see the last cool part of the hike without me talking. Thanks a lot for watching my channel. I appreciate it. Alright, so we've made it up to the waterfall. Wow, that's really big. It's a lot bigger than I was expecting, holy cow. That is a humongous waterfall right there. That's huge. know it was gonna be that big. I've seen pictures of it, but dang. This is Lower Calf Creek Falls. And I'm telling you guys, if you've never been here, you gotta come. It's pretty cool. Koba, was it worth going on this hike? What do you think? I think so too, huh? That is just absolutely beautiful.